Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda and this is a vlog of my late autism and ADHD diagnosis. And I've just been kind of sitting here staring at the camera trying to make myself push start because I wanted to do a video on grief. As many of y'all saw, I made a post that my grandpa passed away a couple nights ago, and so I have been really having the topic of grief on my head for a little while now because he was in hospice, so it wasn't unexpected, but it's still hard when it happens. But actually pushing play and starting to talk is okay. I just finished filming. I just want to put a trigger warning in because I do talk about death and grief, and I do get sad and emotional in this video. I don't go into any kind of details about death, but if you are in a place of grief right now and this video is too much for you right now, please watch one of my other videos or skip this one and take care of yourself, okay? Thanks. Bye. Not really easy. And then it's funny because I noticed my PDA was kicking in. So those of you who don't know, PDA is pathological demand avoidance profile of autism. And so, which is a nervous system response. It's your brain trying to protect your nervous system. And it's like, this feels like a scary demand, so you can't do it. And the lighting in here is pretty bad. I've tried turning on the lights and opening the window, but it's just a dark day here today. But I sat here and I tried to like adjust the lighting as much as I could. And then even getting my microphone out, I was just like, I'll just start the video without my microphone. Like, that's just too much work. I can't. My PDA was like, no, you can't use the microphone. And I'm like, I know the quality is so much better for y'all listening that just go ahead, push through, put the microphone on. It's just I had to go through all these different things. And then, you know, I'm autistic and ADHD, and sometimes it's hard to tease apart what is what, but I haven't drank much water today. I hadn't been thinking about water, but as soon as I went to go start the video, I'm like, oh, I'm really thirsty. I have to go drink water. And it's like my brain is a toddler. And it's fight, flight, fawn, or freeze are the nervous system responses for PDA. And so, you know, going to have to go get water, flight, you know, I have to leave the room. Fight, you know, fighting, hooking up my microphone, which is not even hard. It's just like my brain telling me not to do it. But I really want to. I process out loud. That's the best way for me personally to process through things. Like, some people are really good about just having an inner monologue and like hearing their thoughts and processing their thoughts in their brain. I don't really think I have an inner monologue. I've talked about this on and off before because I do have thoughts in my brain, but from what other people talk about having an inner monologue, it doesn't seem like the same experience for me. And I definitely process better when I can talk out loud to the video, to my therapist, to friends. I used to try to journal, but it's not even the same. Like, actually making myself say the words out loud is the best way for me to process. The other day I asked a question on Threads. If you are autistic and ADHD and or ADHD, how do you think being neurodivergent affects how you process grief? And it's interesting because, like, some of the responses were intellectualizing it. And I think that's also kind of where I was going and where I will often go. And I was like, I'm going to take down these people's responses and kind of make a chart and see what some of the similarities, because I got a lot of responses, and kind of like make a video talking about how all these different people who are autistic and ADHD, how they process grief. And that'll make a really good video. But really, it's just avoiding my own processing of the grief. And I also have a memory disorder called severely deficient autobiographical memory. So I don't have autobiographical memories of my life. I have semantic memories, and I have emotional memories and muscle memory, but I don't create autobiographical memories. So thinking back for people who have died, and I'm very lucky at 44, I have not had that many very close people to me that have died. But, you know, my grandpa just passed away a couple days ago, and the sadness that I feel is just like, right now, it's like knowing that I won't hear his voice again. I do have some recordings, thankfully, but I also have total multisensory aphantasia. I don't hear sounds in my head. I don't see images in my head. So I don't have an image in my mind of what my papa, that's what I call my papa, what he looks like. And I can't hear his voice in my head. And of course I have video and photographs, but I can't carry it with me in my mind. And, you know, thinking back when I was a kid and I would go stay at my grandparents' house, I don't have those autobiographical memories. Episodic memories is another word for autobiographical memory. But I do have some semantic memories. So one of my favorite memories of my grandpa, I'm playing with this fidget. If y'all hear the weird noises, it's, for my blind viewers, it's a kind of silicone ball with like the little poppet buttons that you can kind of pop in and pop out. I know it's a loud one, but it's what my brain needs right now. I try to stick to quieter fidgets usually. Anyway, again, avoidance of the topic. Episodic memory. Yeah, so I've semantic memory. That's facts, right? Like I remember things that have happened. I just don't remember the lived experience of it happening. And one of my favorite ones was when I was actually freshman in college, and I went to college in the same town, or the next one over really, as my grandparents. And I did that for a couple of reasons, but one of them was because I was really close to my grandparents, and I thought going to college near them, one, it'd have just get some family support, a free place to do laundry, good food on the weekends when I wanted to go visit, and just to be able to get to know my grandparents even more, you know, as an approaching into my adulthood. And my mom was working, single mom, when I had to move into the dorms. And so my grandparents helped me move into the dorms. And my grandpa carried these cinder blocks, super heavy cinder blocks, up 4 flights of stairs to our 4th floor dorm, because we didn't have elevators, so that my roommate and I could make bookcases. And I'm sure he complained. See, that's the part where it's like, I don't have the autobiographical memory. Like, I know he did it. I don't remember it actually happening. I'm sure he complained the entire time of those stairs just because I know his personality. But he was there and he did it out of love. And like, he would do anything that I asked, you know? And so they helped me move into my dorm room and out of the dorm room at the end of the year. But it's interesting because after getting my autism diagnosis, and you start learning about autism, and my kids they got diagnosed autistic autistic ADHD a month before I did. Then I got my official diagnosis. And then you start learning all about the traits of autism and how it presents differently in different people. And then I realized my mom is also autistic, never diagnosed. And then we realized my grandpa was autistic, never diagnosed. He had his spot in the living room, his chair. Nobody else could sit in that chair. And he liked it really dark, and he had to have quiet. He had sensory issues with foods. Of course, they didn't call it that back then. I don't like pasta. Well, it's because he didn't like the sensory of pasta. He had specific clothes that he could wear. He struggled. He was a very charismatic person. Like me, he's an extrovert. But he really struggled to maintain friends. He was asked to leave a couple different churches because he got into autistic sense of justice arguments with the pastors. And I don't know if he got asked to leave or if he just left because he felt like sense of justice wasn't happening, right? Like, so he left churches because of his own moral code, like, and the interpretations of the Bible. Like, he was a very religious man, and in his later years. But like, he struggled to understand social cues is what it was. Like, he had an intense sense of integrity, and he was just a really good guy. He went out of his way to help so many people. And yeah. But as for grief and processing grief, like I said on that thread, a lot of autistic people will tend to intellectualize grief. I think a lot of autistic people are accepting of death as part of the natural consequences of life. There's a lot of autistic people who have extreme empathy, and so being around other grieving people, they absorb that energy too, and they feel it at 10x. Just like anybody, autistic people are individual. We're all going to experience grief in different ways, but I still do think that autistic people are going to experience grief as a whole differently than neurotypical people, just because a lot of how we show grief, like how humans show grief, is social. Funerals is like a social gathering to experience grief. And ever since I was a very young child, I never understood or wanted to be around funerals. They were very confusing for me. I was probably about 8 when my grandpa, who just passed away, when his mom died. I think I was about 8. I think it was his mom. Yeah. And I remember, I know my mom asked me if I wanted to go to her funeral, and I was like, no. And it just was too intense for me. The thought of a funeral, it was scary. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why people were all so sad. As a young child, I just... I don't know, like, people were talking about, you know, my grandma going to heaven or whatnot. And even as a very young child, I was not religious. And to me, I didn't get comfort in the words that people were saying. And I wasn't close with my great grandma. So, you know, there was that too. Like, I knew her or whatever, but I wasn't really close with her. Hold on. Oh, okay, no, I'm not going to pause. Y'all know I don't like to pause because when I'm filming, I really try to encapsulate how it'd be like if you were talking to an autistic person in person. And yeah, I'm feeling really, really overwhelmed right now. Which, if you were talking to me in person right now, it's like I'm wanting to go into a shutdown mode, and which means that, like, see, my eye contact's even gotten less. Like, I'm not even looking up at the phone right now, and I'm intellectualizing it on purpose, but yeah, my okay. I couldn't. I'm struggling to talk now because my brain's wanting to avoid this topic. But I wanted to say one more thing. And that is, again, when I was talking about funerals, and my grandpa was in hospice, and spending the week before he died debating whether or not I should fly to go out and see him. And society, it's like, yes, go see him, go see him. But it's part of my disability. Since hitting burnout, travel has become extremely difficult for me. Y'all can look back. Last December, I did some videos in Hawaii. I went to Hawaii, and I was so looking forward to it because I'd gone to Hawaii a couple years ago before COVID. That was before I hit burnout, and I loved it. It was before the channel, so there's no videos on it. And I was still high masking and pushing through. And when I hit burnout, so much has changed for me. And travel's one of those things, and I didn't know it. And we planned a trip to Hawaii, paradise, literal paradise. And it was so hard. And it's sad because I always thought I wanted to travel so much, but I got so dysregulated traveling, staying away from home, eating different foods. So when we left Hawaii, we came back home, my husband and I were like, we're not going to travel again for a while until the whole family can get more regulated. And then traveling to go see my grandpa, and I'd have to have gone by myself for like reasons I don't want to get into on this channel right now. But I would have had to go by myself. That would have been and you're going into such grief emotionally charged place and you're already dysregulated, and then the emotion is more dysregulating, and I knew I couldn't do it, even though I wanted to see my grandpa one more time, but I couldn't. And I wanted to be there and hold my grandma's hand, and they don't understand. The people in my family in Texas, they don't understand the burnout, even though many of them are all autistic too. They are not where I am in the journey of accepting it. And I called him. And I gotta say my goodbyes, but I did get to be there with him, and that's okay. And I'm just saying this part because if you've got somebody who has a disability, you've got to listen to their limitations because they know themselves better. And I wouldn't have done anybody any good to be there and then be in a meltdown and so dysregulated that I couldn't function well. Because it's not about me, it's about my grandpa right then, you know? And so I didn't want to be more burden for anybody. And that's the thing about autism being so dynamic, because a lot of times this channel, I know I look like I have it together. Most days
I'm at low support needs.
Most days I'm making it through. But there are definitely times and situations and days where I have such not high support needs, but for me, like more support needs than what I have as my baseline. All right. I'm sure there's more I want to say, but I'm just going to leave it at that for now. Okay, I finished the video and then I was sitting here thinking, and I was like, there's stuff I left off. So I didn't put my mic back on. I'm not even using my tripod. I just wanted to add a few more comments. And that is, one, a lot of autistic people are going to slip back into masking with their grief, because masking is like what our brains automatically do to keep us safe. So we will mask to mimic the grieving people around us so that we fit in and don't stand out. But that can be detrimental, because then we're not processing the grief in the way that we personally need to process it, because we're masking and too busy trying to make sure that outwardly we look like we are grieving the way that people think we need to grieve, instead of how we personally would need to grieve. And how it's no different from any other human on the planet. We're all going to grieve differently. And some, it may be delayed, because, especially in autistic people, because a lot of autistic people process things in a more intense way that requires more time to process. So the grief may hit later, may hit in waves. But oftentimes an autistic person's emotions are not going to look on their face what like a neurotypical expects them to see, even if it's happiness and joy. And this goes for sadness too. A lot of times when I'm feeling an intense emotion, my face is more neutral, because I'm not putting energy to make sure that my face is looking the way it should to a neurotypical person. I think I'm thinking about grief even more with my grandpa's passing, because this is the first death that's been really close to me since getting my diagnosis, that I'm really taking time to process as an unmasked autistic person. My Aunt Kathy, which is my grandpa's sister, I was also close with her. She died a couple years ago. It was at the very beginning of my autism journey. I was still masking very heavily. And my relationship with her had dissipated over the years, and it'd been many years since I had talked to her. So I really wasn't close with her since I was a child. Even still, it was really sad when she died. But I was still masking heavily at that point. And so now I'm really trying to learn how to process my emotions from a more authentic, healthy space. Thank you all for listening. I really appreciate it.